Welcome to Cox OC Connection. I'm Lacey Kelly and this is Civic Connection. Today I'm visiting with Chris Thompson, who's the Vice President of Decommissioning for Southern California Edison. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's been just about a year since the announcement of the closure of the San Onofre nuclear plant was made public, and I understand that Edison has come up with some key principles to help drive the massive project over the next 2 decades and the decommissioning and deconstruction of the facility. Can you tell us, give us an overview of that?
Sure, absolutely. Southern California Edison and the co-owners of the San Onofre facility have issued 3 guiding principles that will guide our work through this decommissioning process. They are safety, stewardship, and engagement. It is our hope to make the decommissioning of San Onofre a model that others in the industry look towards for an example. Those 3 principles, safety, stewardship, and engagement, safety is paramount to us. Sure. And to me that means 3 things. The safety of the employees who are doing the work of decommissioning the facility, the safety of the communities that surround San Onofre, and the safety of the natural environment. By stewardship, what we're referring to is our customers have contributed to trust funds that will finance the decommissioning of San Onofre over the operating life of the plant. That customers were contributing to those trust funds. We have an obligation to them to be wise stewards of that money. At the end of the decommissioning process, any funds that remain in the trusts will be refunded to our customers. An example of that wise stewardship is about 1/3 of the money that is in the trust funds was actual contributions from our customers. The other 2/3 were earnings on wise investments of those monies. And the 3rd principle is engagement, and we want to engage directly with the public and have the public understand what we're doing, what our plans are, and what is happening at the facility. And that takes a lot of different forms that I'm happy to get into with you later.
Sure, sure. Well, what is the status of the project right now? When could we, for instance, expect to see the dismantling of the containment domes?
We're in a planning and preparatory phase now. We're working towards achieving what's in the industry referred to as a cold and dark status, which is de-energizing the facility, depressurizing the systems, draining oil, acids, caustics, removing those from the site to make it as safe an industrial work site as possible for the people who will be performing the work. Installing temporary power so that all of the power that outlets in the walls, et cetera, as they're being demolished, there won't be any danger that they're energized. We'll be complete with that work in the next year or so, and the major dismantlement will start in about 2016, and that's the major dismantlement will be about a 10-year period.
Okay, so it'll take about 10 years. Well, wait a second, I'm not sure I understood you. How long will it take to complete the entire project?
The entire project's about a 20-year project.
Okay.
So we refer to a major dismantlement period as about 10 years. There'll be 2 or 3 on the front end in planning, the 10-year period of major dismantlement, and then an additional 7 or so years of site restoration and other work.
Okay, Chris, got it. So if I understand you right, this is a multi-billion-dollar project and you're fully funded, is that correct?
Correct.
What is the total cost of this project?
The total cost is $4.4 billion. We just recently completed a cost estimate. It's a conservative estimate with more than 20% contingency, so we anticipate that the cost will be less than that, but that is our current cost estimate.
Okay. And Edison took an extraordinary step in creating a community engagement panel to advise you during this process. Can you tell us why you did that?
Sure. That's part of one of our guiding principles of engagement. It's our desire that the community be well informed on what we're planning and what the progress towards decommissioning is, and that we can get feedback from the local communities on their views on how we proceed. The community engagement panel is made up of 18 people. It's chaired by a UC San Diego professor, David Victor. It has local elected officials from the surrounding jurisdictions,
okay.
2 county supervisors, one from Orange and one from San Diego County, as well as representatives of the Department of the Navy, which is the landlord.
Okay.
San Onofre sits on Navy land, state parks, local academics, representative of the business community, labor, environmental groups, and a community activist who has been a longtime opponent of the facility.
Sure, sure. Okay, so the facility was in operation for 3 decades. How will you safely store the high-level nuclear waste from the facility? I understand that the federal government is supposed to help in this regard, and that a federal repository is supposed to be identified. And I've also heard that there's skepticism about that. So tell us about all that.
There is skepticism, and it's warranted. We're skeptical as well. We're planning. We use as a planning date a 2024 date that was given to us by the federal government of when they expect to pick up spent fuel from reactor sites, when they anticipate beginning to pick up fuel.
Okay.
We're skeptical of that date as well. At San Onofre, we have a more than three decade record of safely storing used nuclear fuel. There are two ways in which it is stored on the site. In the spent fuel pools, there are two, one for each operating reactor, and then in dry storage, which is a passively cooled system that's air-cooled. When fuel is removed from the reactor, it's thermally hot and needs to cool down. It's placed in the spent fuel pool, which has 23 feet of water above the top of the fuel assemblies. It cools there for about 5 to 7 years before it's ready to be, it's cool enough to be put in a dry storage cask. So we will, our plan is to remove the fuel from the spent fuel pools beginning in the next year or so and concluding in 2019, and having all of the fuel in dry storage casks on the site.
Got it. Okay. Elaborate process.
It is.
San Onofre is a beautiful place. There's a beach there and a place that I think a lot of people want to visit. What does the decommissioning look like in terms of utilizing that land in the future? Will there be any danger there, anything once the project is finished for people to be concerned about?
Well, as I mentioned, the land is owned by the Department of the Navy, and they will be taking the land back when decommissioning is concluded. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission regulates the remediation of the site, the radiological remediation. So the release criteria from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission is that the land, when it's cleaned, has to be available for unrestricted use by its end user, in this case the Navy. So we're doing sampling, and we'll do sampling all over the site to establish a baseline of where any contamination is that needs to be remediated. At the end of the decommissioning project, we will have dismantled all of the buildings, removed substructure improvements, and restored the site and return it to the Navy.
Okay. So is that the extent of your environmental concerns, and does the state of California get involved in this at all?
Absolutely. The state has a strong role in this. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, as I mentioned, largely regulates radiological matters, safety, and the storage of the fuel.
Okay.
The state of California has a role in those functions as well as site restoration. And so, for example, there will be a California Environmental Quality Act review of the project. The State Lands Commission is involved because the ocean conduits, the intake and outfall, are governed by a lease from the State Lands Commission. The Coastal Commission will be involved in permitting the dry storage facility, and the entire project will be subject to the California Environmental Quality Act.
Okay. And you have said that you really, really want a high level of engagement. If someone is watching this program and they don't currently know how to do that, what would they do? How would they go about finding out more information?
Thank you for asking. That's a good question. We've established a website, songscommunity.com, and on that website we have put a wealth of documents, our major regulatory filings, video archives of the community engagement panel meetings, all of the documents that have been shared with the community engagement panel, as well as background papers on the issues in decommissioning. All of those things are available on the website. Additionally, if a group wants somebody from Edison to come speak to them about decommissioning, there's a function on the website where you can request a speaker to come talk to you about decommissioning, as well as we're starting to do public walking tours. So people can sign up on the website for a public walking tour and see the facility for themselves.
That's fascinating. So some of the community has been really concerned about this particular facility, and you're taking people through it to see it. What is that like?
It's an impressive facility. There is a very high level of security. So as part of taking a tour, you have to submit some information to allow for checks to make sure that you're allowed in this on such a secure site. There's a high level of professionalism from the people who work there. People have spent their careers there and care very deeply about the site. It's a fascinating place to look at. It's a great learning opportunity for people.
Absolutely, and a part of our history. You mentioned the Nuclear Regulatory Commission's role in overseeing the decommissioning. Tell us all that they will be doing with you in terms of overseeing this process.
So I mentioned there are a number of regulatory filings that we will be making, submitting to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission towards the end of September. We have shared those in advance with the Community Engagement Panel, and we're actually in the process of getting their feedback on some of them now. The major one is called the Post-Shutdown Decommissioning Activities Report, which is kind of a roadmap of our decommissioning plan. So we will submit that to the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and we can't start major decommissioning activities until 90 days after they acknowledge receipt of the document. That's a living document, so as things change, we will provide them with updates. Okay. They also have a resident inspector who was there during the operation of the site. The resident inspector is still there. We have requested that the resident inspector stay throughout the period of decommissioning if possible. So there's extensive oversight from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission.
Okay. We've got about a minute left. What else do you want the audience to know about this incredible process as we sort of lose this facility and move into a new era of energy?
I would really encourage people to learn more about it. We want people to be engaged and learn about what is going on there now, what our plans are for the future. Part of the thinking for us behind establishing the Community Engagement Panel was to get that two-way feedback from the local communities. We've done a lot of very serious thinking and planning in putting together our approach to decommissioning, but we think from feedback it can only get better. So we would like for people to ask us tough questions and improve our plan. And so I would encourage people to go to our website, attend the Community Engagement Panel meetings, and give us their feedback.
Excellent. Well, Southern California Edison has always been expert in involving the community. So I want to thank you for being here today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Cox OC Connection. We'll see you next time.